Hello, we are the Savvy Spiritual Sisters, the Yogi, the Mystic, and the Priestess. We engage in rich discussions on life, spirituality, and wellness from our unique perspectives.
Hi everyone, I'm Mina and I'm the Yogi.
And I'm Amber and I'm the Mystic.
Hello everybody, I'm Lisa and I'm the Priestess.
And today we are here to chat about knowing the difference between fear and your intuition. And intuition as in following your gut kind of intuition. Because you can feel both of those, fear and intuition, in your gut. And so we want to talk about how to know the difference. And the reason we're talking about it is it came up at an event that I attended last week. And that was somebody's question. So I guess I'll start with just some of the ways that I replied to that person's question. And what I find with fear is that, well, both of them we feel in our body. So both fear and intuition will feel in our body. And first thing, if we don't know the difference, we should just sit with it and be quiet and see what comes up, see what dissipates, see what else unfolds, and maybe even spend a little more time dropping into our body, whether that's through meditation, whether it's through yoga. And I think the sensations that we find with fear are that they tend to be more restrictive, they tend to be heavy, tends to be harsh, demanding, anxious, whereas our intuition tends to be more calm, aligned, affirming, gentle, and it tells us that we're present. And so those are feelings that I think we can understand in our body to know the difference.
Mm-hmm. Well, this is such a rich topic. I mean, talk about rich discussion. I see this come up all the time. And so I think there's so much that we can unpack here in the time we have together. And that was such a great start, Mina. So Amber, what would you have to add to what she just said? Or affirm what she just said?
Yeah, both. So I loved, what you described as the bodily sensation and the body location and the discernment between intuition and fear, right? And just, sort of the reactive fear. I think it's so practical and it helps people to stop, check, and slow down, because the way our amygdala, our neurologic framework is made, we get hit at that amygdala in the center, the primitive part of the brain just fires. And the programming on the planet says that then we react. So you gave a real clue as to how to discern and to use, sort of take an intuitive pause to allow sort of the truth to emerge. Are we in a position of true danger in some sense, or is it something else? I do also, you guys, want to point out that we know this, and I think our listeners, either from a beginning phase, midline, or more advanced phase, they understand that there's an enormous amount of fear on the planet. And it is a predominant theme on the planet to have enormous fear in our bodies, and then to have rapid reactivity to that, right? So Mina, you're really giving us a practical viewpoint. So Lisa, just sort of with the combination of where Mina began on that, and then my taking it to sort of planetary energetics, what comes up for you?
So For sure, I feel like part of it, like a lot of it is incredibly visceral. It's definitely felt in the body. I'm also aware of the point at which, especially for me, but for a lot of people I work with, how it comes up in here as like the fear voice, the ego voice, the why you can't, the why you shouldn't, the why you don't, the why you won't. And that comes from like the old programming. And mine's like right here in my head. I always do this. And I've given this, this voice in my head a name, because I have different sort of voices or communication inside of me. And so I know what this one is, and I've given it a name, and we have a dialogue. I think of that as like an inner dialogue. I know that my more wise sort of intuitive voice is kind of down in here in my body. I know what things feel like in my heart. Like if my heart is lit up with joy and excitement, that's a little different than feeling that flush of adrenaline with fear, because that's how that comes up often for me, and I think a lot in our community. And then I see how this fear, like what you were talking about, Amber, has become so exponential, especially since 9/11. Yeah. You know, I see that as kind of like the beginning of that. And we could think of the tower card in the tarot when the tower comes down, and I can still recall the feeling that sent through my body. It was like ripples and waves, and the energy of our entire society that happened on that day. And just, you know, we were all utterly distraught and just flushed with all this fear and adrenaline, and, you know, it was horrible. But I think when we're looking internally, viscerally, we also have to make sure we're really aware of what the chatter is and the old programming and stories that we're telling ourselves around the fear that's coming up, to help us sort of, you know, differentiate between what's down in here, the gut stuff, and then how we want to make meaning around what we're feeling.
Yeah, it's a very good point about, and I bet Mina, that question, you know, and where you encountered it, based on what Lisa is saying, there's sort of, I think what is forgotten is that sometimes what we're afraid of, or what triggers fear is groupthink. In other words, I personally might not have any kind of issue around something that's provocative for somebody else, or evocative, but because they're popping and they're reacting, all of a sudden I'll have, because I think especially the people we engage as clients and in our various practices and services, and I think the group you were probably talking with, and was it from the panel discussion the other day? Mm-hmm. People really struggle with the group think around things they should be afraid of.
Sure, and you know, it's that collective energy is going to come into us if we allow it to. And so when we know that there's a lot of collective energy like that, so for example, on election day 2016, I had gone to bed before the results came in, and when I woke up, I felt it. I felt all of the fear from what was happening and the results of that election before I even checked anything. And I could just feel it all through my body. And I was like, you know, I get it, I understand, but I don't want this on me. And so, you know, setting up boundaries around that collective fear and collective energy, so that you're not absorbing it all the time is really important. And, you know, in this discussion that I was in the other day, it was surrounding business. And as business owners, I think we all feel these similar kind of things, because, you know, everybody in that room has had a similar experience with, you know, is putting myself out there, number one. That's a thing that can bring about a lot of fear. What if I fail? What if I don't make any money and I can't pay my bills? And so I think everyone in that room has experienced that, and we were all collectively feeling it, and all collectively trying to figure out a way of how to not fall prey to it.
Well, and I bet you in that room, to the point I was making about how emotional states, particularly fear, because it predominates on the planet, it gets triggered in people. I'm sure there was somebody sitting in there who all of a sudden got hit with, got triggered their own because the discussion that was being had. But Lisa, I think that's something that you said too about the fall of the Twin Towers. Mina, the 2016 election cycle results. Let's see, when Fukushima blew up in Japan, my legs were actually burning. For my feet and lower legs were on fire. I had neuropathic fiery pain in my legs. Never had that before. I had to turn to one of my teachers and say, hello, something is really wrong with my legs. I knew to go because I was getting worried. And she said, you're picking up on the fear of the people who were actually burned to death at Hiroshima, during the Hiroshima event, because it triggered Fukushima, triggered the fear of people who had been living from Hiroshima or their family inheritance. So it goes so deep in a cellular perspective, because I think that's what you're saying too, Lisa, the wave that you caught as it went through the collective group, Mina, the election as it went through the collective group. So I think what we should get into, we started with business, people, women in businesses and small businesses having vulnerabilities and the fears that come up from that perspective. And look, we've also then made the link to fear patterning on the planet and group fear patterns, and how we can't forget that sometimes what we might think we're afraid of, we look for a place for our fear. In other words, we may just be catching on to something else that's not very real for us, but we're just catching it and we're trying to find a place for it. I do that all the time, actually, in emotional states.
But so I just have to say, Mina, that night of the election, that night I could not sleep. I literally just shook all night long, literally. I was fried, and I shook and I trembled and I literally could not stop because I could feel everything that was happening and all the fear. And like, I sort of liken it to feeling like this big hole in the sky opened up and all this sort of dark energy came down and sort of like swooshed around and like pinged everybody. And I could just feel it running through my body. And so, it's so interesting that we feel it in our bodies, but it's, fear can be a tool. And I think it's worth noting, I think often fear lets us know when something's important, right? Yeah. We know when something's important when fear comes up, like, this is exciting and this is something I want. And if I have like the excitement fear thing and stepping outside the comfort zone, that's important. Or fear comes up and then it's like, sometimes it's just that checking in. Wait a minute, is this part of old programming? Is this part of past trauma for me that, that my body scans, my mind is constantly scanning, right? Trying to find the patterns in the fear and the danger, whatever that was from, this lifetime and past lifetimes. We carry that in our DNA. We carry that in our spiritual DNA and in our cellular memory. Right. And so the mind's always trying to go over every circumstance, every situation, make meaning of it, look for the pattern, and understand like that, that's where the fight or flight comes in. Am I supposed to do something? Do I run? Can I just stay here with it for a moment and take, have the awareness around, why is this coming up? What is this for me? Is this old programming? Yeah, that kind of does feel like some old programming. And that's when your little voice is here going, blah, 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 blah. Remember when such and such, and you got this and that?
Yeah.
And at the same time, there is the opportunity to confront fear, to really look at it and realize that even when things happen, even when shit went down or it was all effed up and foobar, that no matter what, somehow somehow you, somehow we were still okay. Just, you know, we got through, and somehow, even when things were just beyond what we could imagine, we somehow still, we were okay. And I know, Mina, in particular, you've been through some stuff in your life that would beyond everything that you could have ever thought or imagined. Like, you would never have thought that you'd have to confront, you know, fear in the way that you have. And somehow, boy, did you gracefully power through it.
Yeah, and here I am on the other side, okay. It's like every worst nightmare that could have come to fruition, based on that situation when my husband was paralyzed and in the hospital, and, you know, I don't know how I'm going to pay my bills, and he can't work, you know, they're going to take the house, and, you know, just those things just start flowing through you. Here I am, and everything was okay. And so, like you said, fear can inform us. It can tell us not to do stupid stuff. And so that's valuable information, right? So yeah, should I be afraid to get on a motorcycle without a helmet? Yes, I should be afraid to get on a motorcycle without a helmet, because that's just stupid. Should I be afraid that my house is going to be repossessed because my husband's in the hospital? No, because we just need to go through the situation and take it day by day. So trying to go that far into the future is a waste of time, energy, and it's not productive. And so just sitting with it every day, taking the things as they were handed to us one at a time, it was, you know, that's what got us through. And for me, some meditation, breath work, yoga practice, asana practice was crucial in staying in a state where I didn't let that voice like whisk me away and take me down a rabbit hole.
And I think for me, because I think as we, Lisa, are we coming, I think it makes a good point for us with what you just did around how to be aware of the chatter, but to approach it with all of your tools and to assess it for where it's going. You gave a really good primer on, and a lot of good clues about what you can do when confronted by fear. Mina, I think you gave another great set of clues as to how you do that, and inclusive of a spiritual practice, right? A sort of daily spiritual practice. So I'd like to offer, because I think that's what the conversation has moved to, sort of offering some perspective on how to handle fear, with small or large, it doesn't matter, but it's something tragic going on, or, you know, fear of speaking, public speaking, or fear of being seen as a vulnerable person, or that kind of stuff. So what I have to offer on that is, before we began our show, I thought, well, let me see what, because in my work, and I know Lisa and yours too, and to a certain extent yours too, Mina, I call on crystal energy. I call on nature. I call on all kinds of things. But the one stone that wanted to come to the conversation was diamond. And so what I want our listeners and viewers to understand is that the mineral kingdom on our planet is here to inform, support, heal, recover, stabilize, calibrate us, and inform us if we choose to make use of that. And so diamond came forward, and remember, you don't have to have a rock in your hand. You don't have to have a diamond. They are kind of precious to come by. You can literally, when you're experiencing momentary fear or repetitive bouts of fear, bring in, call in, ask to come in the energetic composition, just the energy of diamond. It can be really simple. And something I learned about diamond today that I didn't know is that, well, of course, we know that diamond is only the crystallized form of carbon coal. And what's going on the planet today, everybody, is that the human kingdom is going from carbon-based energetics to silicon, which is crystalline-based energetics. That's the 3D, right? To the 5D transfiguration. So it was not a surprise to me when the diamond showed up representing that. And kind of in final to that, two other things occurred. Oh, the other thing I didn't know about diamond is it's the only rock, it's the only gemstone, the only crystal that only receives energy. It takes in light energy. It's the only one that does not give it out. So it's incredibly healing that if you'll call diamond forward, it actually acts as a removing agent. Because remember, everything is light. And it's light, and fear is just light vibrating at its own rate, right? We can just kind of absorb it. So remember to kind of call that in and put it around us, like wrap ourselves in a robe of diamond energy. That's just another clue to it. And one more thing, two things go with that. The essential oil that goes with diamond, if you are a doTERRA, Young Living, or some other essential oil person, that would be neroli. Okay. And I think there's one more I wrote myself another note. Oh, and if you're an animal totem person, if you're the kind of person that really resonates to the animal kingdom, call on the humpback whale. So call on the whale family. Yeah. All of that will wrap around your heart and your body and your psyche, and it will soften the pain of fear. Okay, that was my bits of that, Lisa.
I love that you included some of my favorite types of allies, because I love the mineral kingdom, and I wear something around my neck at least every day, and I'm surrounded by them, and I use essential oils religiously. I've got my diffuser going, I'm wearing my stuff. I work with the animal energy and totems all the time. I also like, and at certain times, I will lay either with my back or my belly literally on the earth and just breathe and let the earth kind of take it from me. Just sort of let it sort of run out and like almost like water down a drain and let things come out. I will also do that in the tub with Epsom salt, just like, let's get this off of here and let's just sort of cleanse this out. And of course, smudging and purging my home. When I found, after 9/11, and I go back to that because it was such a pivotal time for me, that was also around the time a couple of friends of mine died. And so I had so much fear and anxiety and a lot of pressure about what I was up to, at the time I was married and I was going to school and everything. And then there was the intense feelings of we were preparing to go to war. And I went through a period of anxiety, like acute anxiety, where I was in a panic attack 24/7 for several weeks and literally sick. I couldn't have lights on. I couldn't have TV or music on in the background. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't eat. I had diarrhea and vomiting the entire time, literally.
Wow.
And it took me a time of doing my own work to kind of come out of that. And then what I found as tools for me at that point were calling on those things, the things that I know, that the animals, the minerals, the nature, essential oils, yoga, breathing. That was huge. Moving my body to move the energy out, right? Because sometimes it's like kind of stuck in there, so we need an outlet for it. And I did a checklist when I started to feel the panic come up around, am I safe right now? Have I eaten? Have I had something to drink? Do I have a roof over my head, clothes to wear, a safe place? Just like the real kind of basic, like root chakra level things.
Yeah.
And what I found also to be like that's helped me sort of elevate all of this experience is to know that I don't have to have trust or faith in anything other than the universe has my back and myself.
Yeah.
You don't have to trust or have faith in anybody or anything else as long as you've got those two.
Yeah, very, very, very well said. Very well said. Lisa, how are we doing on time? I don't want to.
Got 5 minutes.
Yeah, so Mina, I think let me hand it, since this was really your thought for us today and conversation today. What else would you like to, or kind of summarize where we've been on this today?
Sure. Well, I would love to just give some practical yoga that people can do to both alleviate that fear as well as stoke their intuition, so that it's like, okay, let's get rid of it. Let's see what's fear and let's see what's intuition. And so to help alleviate the fear and ground it and get it out of you, and stabilize, energize that root chakra, those feelings of safety and security. Mountain pose, just standing with your feet grounded firmly, and even feeling the more you press down, the more you lift up. So if fear is heavy and intuition is light, the more you press down and release that heaviness down in mountain pose, just standing, the lighter you'll feel. And so you'll start to feel that difference between heavy and light. Another one, Shavasana, laying on the floor, on the earth, like Lisa said, just laying there, again, grounding all of that energy down. Let the earth absorb it, clear it out, so then you can feel and think more clearly. Any sort of expansive type of yoga to help create that expansive feeling that comes with intuition. Opening your chest, just lifting your chest tall. I know, we all like set up. Letting the shoulders drop down.
Yeah.
Laying over a bolster so that you can really open up here through that chest. And then to stoke your intuition, to activate that chakra, your third eye, child's pose with your forehead on the ground. And just starting to open that up, even a forward fold, and letting that energy just pool into this area with the head lower than the heart to help bring that intuition up and listen to it, so that now it's like, okay, fear's grounded, intuition activated, what's coming through to me now? And so those are just really simple things. And if you take a yoga class, you are likely doing that stuff every single time. So.
Yeah. And I hunger for, and just listening to you talk about it, you know how yawns are contagious? Like if I yawned out, you guys would be yawning. As you were talking about those, because I just had class this morning, I can feel that urge to jump as we're all sitting here opening our chest and of having the sensations with you, and they're so nurturing. Just mentally mapping them as you were talking about them are recuperative. That's how powerful our beings are. We can literally hear the words and they trigger the experience without even getting in the floor. Yeah. I think that's amazing about humanity, about the human kingdom.
And I have one more breathing pranayama exercise that I find highly effective.
Do it.
That is to put a pause in between your inhale and exhale. So you take a deep breath in and you hold it, and then you completely release that breath out, and then you hold it, and then you breathe in and you hold, and you breathe out and you hold. And what's happening is that little pause, which in yoga is kumbhaka or retention, that little pause creates space. And so the thing about fear is that there's no space. And if you want to put your reactions and your emotions apart, create that space via your breath, and then you have that clear space to let your intuition start to flow and understand what's real and what's not.
Oh, these have been great. You guys, this has been a great time. Lisa, let me And I'll let you.
You know, Mina, at one point you spoke about boundaries, and it occurs to me that, you know, like one really quick, easy, practical sort of boundary exercise that I offer with a lot of people I work with is if you kind of just, you can imagine it, but I always use my hands too, is, you know, finding your aura, your sphere of awareness, and pulling it in tight and kind of thick around you. Because when we're really too open, that's when we're getting all that, you know, all that feedback, all that interference, all that, like, yeah, that swirly, chaotic sort of fear energy. So just kind of pulling that in, doing like that yoga stuff, but also affirming like your center, right? You're like plugged in down into the earth, and sort of doing just those couple of things in just a moment can also be really helpful. But I love that practice, Mina. I'm gonna like totally be doing that.
Love that. Very good. Well, you guys, this is a great time together.
Yeah.
It is. It is. I like so much fun. So wonderful to connect with you both.
Yeah, and I love the practical tips, because what I can't stand is when people are like, "Oh, do some yoga or do some breathing." It's like, well, what? What?
Grab a crystal and then do what with it?
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, Lisa, if you will wrap us on up and.
Absolutely. So, you know, we're so excited to come together in this space. So we're going to be doing this every 2 weeks, talking about pertinent topics and things that everybody, you know, deals with from time to time. We're going to continue to bring our own unique perspectives to these rich conversations. And yeah, so we're the Savvy Spiritual Sisters. Amber is the mystic. Mina is the yogi. I'm the priestess. We love you all. Thank you so much, and we'll see you soon.
Much love, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.